Hi friends, welcome to the NPTEL course Leadership for India Inc. Practical Concepts and Constructs. We are in week 12 discussing legendary leadership. In this lecture, we will focus on Dr. C.K. Prahalad, a strategy guru who was timeless in strategy and tireless in creativity. In the sudden demise of Dr. C.K. Prahalad in San Diego, USA in 2010, the world of strategy lost one of the most perceptive, innovative, and influential strategic thinkers of all times. Strategy would not have been what it is today but for the several path-breaking conceptual and analytical constructs that Professor Prahalad developed and propagated over the years. With indefatigable energy and passion, he taught, wrote, consulted, and mentored on a global platform for over 44 years, leaving behind his unique and distinguished stamp on management thought and practice. Dr. C.K. Prahalad represented the best of Indian intellect that found a global home. His early professional stint and the move into the management studies were the critical inflection points for him. CKP was born into a large family of Sanskrit Brahmin scholars in the South Indian city of Coimbatore in August 1941. He was Coimbatore Krishnarao Prahalad by name. He obtained his BSc degree in physics from Loyola College, University of Madras in 1960. After his graduation, he worked in Union Carbide as industrial engineer and later in India Pistons as training manager. Accounts speak of his creative and innovative approaches to workflow. Setting sights on management education, he earned his PG diploma in business administration from the prestigious Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, as a student of the first batch in 1966. He later went to Harvard Business School, USA, where he earned his Doctor of Business Administration in 1975. He thereafter joined University of Michigan, USA, and made his mark as a foremost management teacher in the United States. He served as the Distinguished University Professor of Corporate Strategy at the Stephen M. Ross School of Business in the University of Michigan. Dr. Prahalad briefly returned to India to teach at his alma mater, IIM Ahmedabad, during 1976-77. Honorary doctorate degrees from global universities and high-ranking civilian awards from the Government of India, such as Padma Bhushan, were part of the recognitions that were bestowed on Professor C.K. Prahalad. Throughout his long distinguished career, Professor Prahalad helped reshape strategy and set new directions for business strategy and execution. Dr. Prahalad's research and writing focused on corporate strategy and the role and value added of top management in large diversified multinational corporations. CKP had an unparalleled genius for developing seemingly abstract yet elegantly simple constructs marked by lateral and out-of-the-box thinking. His teachings helped future managers and leaders acquire leading-edge conceptual, analytical, and strategic skills. He wrote several articles and books that went on to become bestsellers. They shaped innumerable professionals across domains and countries to think differently. The concept of co-competency proposed by Dr. C.K. Prahalad has been the foundation of focused business strategy the world over. He was also deeply associated with business transformations. He helped industrialists reshape strategy and set new directions for business strategy and execution in their firms. He had several consultancy assignments with companies so that they could plan and grow their existing and new businesses as well as turn around the ailing ones. He made several speeches and presentations in global forums that helped strategy acquire a distinctive recognition as a critical domain. He mentored corporate boards, chief executive officers, entrepreneurs, bureaucrats, and ministers. He helped global industry and even India Inc. recognize higher potential. Some of the companies with whom Dr. Prahalad consulted are Eastman Kodak, AT&T, Cargill, Honeywell, Philips, Motorola, Oracle, Colgate-Palmolive, TRW, Whirlpool, and Alstom, to quote only a few. If there is one factor that characterized all of CK's contributions, it is the unique trailblazing nature, characterized by fresh thinking based on ground realities. Adaptive thinking as well as integrative thinking were both his forte. He had several new propositions. Several management gurus were content to spin extension and analog theories around their first fundamental premises. However, CK constantly and consistently propounded new trailblazing concepts and theories. As a result, CK made a more complete and holistic contribution to business management and business strategy than any other exponent, say perhaps the legendary Peter Drucker. Each of Dr. Prahlad's best-selling books and award-winning articles exemplifies a thought process that is refreshingly different and genuinely creative. The hallmark of creative thinking is in terms of bringing forth new ways of discovering latent issues or coming up with new solutions for the issues that are latent or known. Dr. C.K. Prahlad excelled in that. He was verily a knowledge fountain. He was a prolific writer, speaker, author, and researcher, respected globally. A quintessential educator, CK was the creator of management concepts such as dominant logic, strategic intent, and core competencies. His notable works include Competing for the Future, co-authored with Gary Hamel in 1984, Multinational Mission, Balancing Local Demands and Global Vision 1987, The Future of Competition, Co-Creating Unique Value with Customers, co-authored with Venkat Ramaswamy 2004, The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid, Eradicating Poverty Through Profits 2004, and The New Age of Innovation, Driving Co-Created Value Through Global Networks 2008, co-authored with M.S. Krishnan. Some of the books are represented here. One of the best accounts of C.K. Prahlad's passions, expressed as his reflections, can be found in the paper C.K. Prahlad's Passions, Reflections on His Scholarly Journey as a Researcher, Teacher and Management Guru, that was co-authored by Lynn Perry Wooten and Annie Parmigiani from University of Michigan and Nandini Lahiri from Indian School of Business. Please refer to the citation there. Each of the books created a new strategy paradigm significantly different from the previous ones and laid new trails of strategic thinking. Dr. Prahlad's award-winning articles inevitably churned management thoughts and laid new pivots of strategic thinking each time. The dominant logic provided a new linkage between diversity and performance. It was co-authored with Richard Bettis in 1986. Strategic Intent, which was co-authored with Gary Hamel in 1989, talked about leadership having a strategic rather than an operational intent as the key transformer for an organization. The core competence of cooperation was a path-breaking concept developed in 1990. He co-authored a book also with Gary Hamel. A Strategy for Growth, The Role of Core Competence in the Corporation, was a follow-on book in 1993. Weak Signals versus Strong Paradigms, another very interesting and insightful book that appeared in 1995. The End of Corporate Imperialism was 1998 work. Serving the World's Poor Profitably 2002 was co-authored with Alan Hammond. The New Frontier of Experience Innovation 2003 co-authored with Hrishikesh Bhattacharya, and he again joined Hrishikesh Bhattacharya to author 20 Hubs and No Headquarter 2008. Dr. C.K. Prahlad is notable for advocating establishment of a direct link between core competence and corporate performance. That was a pioneering proposition by him, ranking alongside a few others of similar standing. Unlike many management gurus who preferred to plow their own lonely paths, Professor Prahlad believed strongly in collaborating with other management thinkers, including his students, who evolved into independent thinkers in their own right. The array of books and articles Dr. Prahlad co-authored with such experts, some of them listed earlier, speaks for itself. His cross-institutional, cross-border collaborative research and writing often took years of dedicated work before a publication was made. Quite often, however, it fell on his shoulders to present and communicate thoughts to several learned forums across the globe. While there could be many effective classroom teachers and public orators, Dr. Prahlad had a unique capability to connect with the audience, influence listeners of varied mindsets, and instill a sense of purpose in each listener. He had a multinational mission. The range of subjects that C.K. Prahlad dealt with are amazingly diverse. His first two books were on healthcare management. His book on multinational mission set his strategy expertise onto both academic and business circles. His work explored how multinational corporations need to keep the imperatives of global competitiveness in mind, while at the same time taking into account how local governments and conditions modify those imperatives. His passion for developing a bridge across the developed world and the developing world, and also across different segments of the consumer pyramid, were evident even at that point of time. No global versus local, choose one type of proposition was ever prescribed by him. That's where his integrative thinking came up very strongly. His book also aimed to get past the much touted distinction between strategy formulation and implementation, in part by keeping a present focus on corporate capabilities. The dominant theme of Dr. Prahlad's works has been what may be called boundaryless aspiration, or more precisely, a summons to think beyond conventional boundaries, geographical or intellectual. Amongst the many conceptual contributions of Prahlad, strategic intent, core competence, and fortune at the bottom of the pyramid have been the truly game changing ones. Some of the quotes are very interesting. If we stop thinking of the poor as victims or as a burden and start recognizing them as resilient and creative entrepreneurs and value conscious consumers, a whole new world of opportunity will open up. Another quote: when the poor at the bottom of pyramid are treated as consumers, they can reap the benefits of respect, choice, and self-esteem and have an opportunity to climb out of the poverty trap. His book on strategic intent was also framed in an article in Harvard Business Review, a much acclaimed one at that. A long-term intent incorporating stretch targets and featuring innovative ways of attaining it. Similarly, the core competence of the corporation appeared as a HBR article. A harmonized combination of multiple resources and skills that distinguish a firm in the marketplace is termed as core competence by him. The bottom of the pyramid concept is that the poor represent a huge market to be tapped as partners in progress rather than customers waiting to buy products or services. He said, top managers are like astronauts. To perform well, they need the intelligence that is back on the ground. Though these were initially proposed by Dr. Prahlad as case-based theoretical constructs and caused intellectual upheavals in management thought when they were first presented, all of these have now become visible and viable practices. The construct of strategic intent comprises three attributes of direction, discovery, and destiny for a company's sustainable competitive position. He required a company to think of a long-term and differentiated competitive position, and he said that every firm must seek that over a decade or so. A long-term strategic intent, Dr. Prahlad argued, would in turn motivate the employees to explore the new terrain with a sense of purpose. He also advocated the concept of idea bubbles, that is, upward movement of new ideas from all across the organization to help the company chart out a competitive future. So his strategic intent was long-term, new spaces based, and also inclusive in its concept and execution. Dr. Prahlad considers that a company's strategic orthodoxies would prove to be more dangerous than its well-financed rivals. He saw the competition to a company not from the competitors but from the obduracy of the organization per se. The prime message was one of doing things differently to achieve desired differentiated outcomes. The concept of core competencies made fundamental departure from the established concepts of strategic business units and outside-in models of competitive strategy. He argues that only the core competency of a firm could truly drive its strategy and business. Each firm, according to him, would have its own core competency or a portfolio of core competencies. A true core competency is one that is difficult to replicate by others. It would be the one that remained difficult to replicate by the competitors, and he advocated that building of core competencies that support a strategic intent is even more beneficial. He also said that a core competency mindset would ensure that talent will be unchained to keep generating every now and then new core competencies. He said that talent must be unleashed from the imprisonment of business units. Projects should be identified, and people who embody core competencies must be given the space and freedom to work. He said that a game plan to identify next generation competencies should always be at play in an organization. Core competence that way has been a transformational construct that became the gold standard in differentiating high performers from others. Fortune at the bottom of the pyramid. The paradigm of fortune at the bottom of the pyramid was a path-breaking and transformational India-centric theory with truly global implications. It argued that by developing low-cost products and services that serve the poorest of the poor, corporations would actually earn profits with a social purpose. He said, Companies should focus on the bottom of the social pyramid to make the people partners in both supply and consumption. Not only markets for receiving goods, they should be made as suppliers as well. He also said companies should design products that meet the BOP needs and in the process build competitiveness and profitability, because the bottom of pyramid market segments cannot afford high prices. So you need to be very competitive. At the same time, when you make them the partners in your progress, you understand that you need to offer the kind of technologies and solutions that they can make use of, which means the entire product design paradigm has to be completely different to cater to the BOP needs. Several case studies from India from Prahlad's BOP theory have become viable industry practice. Low priced cars of India, Nokia's and Samsung's USD20 mobile phones, and Muhammad Yunus Grameen Bank demonstrate how profits get generated by focusing on rather than shirking away from poverty. Equally path-breaking have been Dr. Prahlad's other concepts that reprise the concepts of competition and collaboration. For example, his concept that the consumer and the firm are intimately involved in jointly creating value that is unique to the individual consumer and sustainable to the firm. That's one great concept. Another concept was that the emerging markets can be a source of innovation, which can be captured by accessing global resources and talent to create customized, co-created experiences for consumers. He felt that the next generation of product development for the developed markets would actually come from the developing markets or the emerging markets, provided somebody put their heart, mind, and soul to it. The interest of global automobile firms and innovator pharmaceutical firms to collaborate with the Indian partners from the 1990s and the successful alliances thereafter indicate that Prahlad's propositions were futuristic as always. He had a passion for India as a global force. He was perhaps the only Western management thinker who believed that India would be a global leader, that India is now on a path to become a USD 25 trillion economy by 2025 reflects his foresight. Dr. Prahlad had phenomenal insights on global competitive dynamics and formulated dynamic corporate strategies for individual firms and national industries. He believed that leadership at the firm level is all about the future, about hope, and about change. He consistently articulated positivity in all his conferences. He also advocated the groupthink of positivity, not only in the firms and the industry associations he consulted or interacted with, but also in friendly and family get-togethers. As I said, he had great passion for India as a global force. In 1994, Dr. Prahlad addressed a select group of CEOs of India Inc. in Windsor Club, Bangalore. Those were the times when economic liberalization started making its way, and that dramatically dismantled the license Raj and opened up India's economy and industry for globalization and for the entry of multinationals into India. At that point of time, some Indian industrialists were apprehensive. Dr. Prahlad suggested to them that they must build multinational firms from India, that is Indian MNCs, rather than be paralyzed by the worry of the entry of multinationals into the Indian market. He also advocated development of a multinational mindset on the part of India Inc. and the Indian industrialists. Actually, very few of the assembled CEOs at that point of time thought that it could happen. Probably saddened by this reaction, he started working with Indian corporations and individual CEOs to prompt a multinational mindset. And he actually saw the dream getting realized. Surely to Prahlad's satisfaction, he saw in his lifetime the concept of Indian MNCs becoming a reality. And a few years later, globalization is now a regular mantra for businesses in India. We have seen in the previous lectures how several Indian companies have gone abroad and acquired businesses and mark brands. Today, virtually all industrial sectors of India are significantly globalized, while several top Indian corporations have made major global acquisitions. The passion for India as a global force had certain missions for him. In 2007-8, as the celebrations of India at 60 wound down, he formulated a new vision for India at 75, that is India by 2022. So we are somewhere near that. So let us assess what he said and what's currently going on. Dr. Prahalad argued that India's success in this endeavor would depend on economic strength, technological vitality, and moral leadership. He set several exciting goals for India, urged the central and state governments to convert the huge population base into a distinct advantage through quality education. We have now a new education policy. We have now several IITs, IIMs, IIITs, and various other specialized institutions. The governments now believe that India must rank up higher in the higher education paradigm. He believed that India had the ability to account for 10% of global trade. We are not there yet, but still, that's a feasible proposition. He exhorted India to get at least 30 of its firms onto Fortune 100 list. These are highly aspirational, of course. Wanted India to have 10 Nobel Prize winners based on research conducted in India. Again, another great aspirational goal. Stated that India's unique manufacturing and R&D paradigms could provide cost-effective breakthrough innovations. Within these 5 passions which he advocated, certainly the passion of getting 30 of the firms into Fortune 100 list and getting at least 10 Nobel laureates from the Indian research institutions speak of his passion for knowledge. While quantitatively India may not have met Dr. Prahalad's vision in totality, the country is certainly moving towards becoming a global economic as well as knowledge powerhouse. Of course, more of that is happening on the macroeconomic parameters such as GDP, and more needs to happen on the quality of life parameters as well. He also believed in the people power of strategy. Dr. Prahalad's exhortations for India Inc. were not merely business oriented, they were very much national, with focus on socio-economic development and equitable growth. Amongst the whole spread of strategy gurus, Dr. Prahalad is the only one who focuses on the people issues, the equity issues, and broader socio-economic development. Some of his creative propositions are given below. He says that aspirations must always be ahead of resources. He says focus on the future and not on the present or the trajectory of the past. He always maintained that aspirations must exceed the resources and imagination should be considered more important than analysis. Similarly, he felt that the people, particularly the rural consumers and the bottom of the pyramid consumers, are not merely micro consumers, they are also micro producers. He advocated a focus on inclusive growth from the larger rural landscape as micro producers as well as micro consumers. And his passion for India as a global force, with the urban landscape's major producers and consumers leading the drive, was also very explicit. He felt that India, with its 1 billion plus population at that time, now we are 1.35 billion, could turn his India at 75 vision into reality. As one reviews today, the direction set by Dr. Prahalad with foresight has been followed by India Inc. both by design as well as by default. The people power of strategy is something he passionately advocated at all industry fora. His works are characterized by an unflinching faith in people as shapers of strategy and drivers of growth. He never looked at strategy as an impersonal corporate construct or as a milestone-based roadmap or even as a mere structural enabler. He viewed strategy as an outcome of leaders' thinking process, that is the strategic intent, and the firm's aggregation of core competencies of its people. While even his earliest works integrated people as the essential component of strategy development, Dr. Prahalad's last and lasting contributions were in terms of an explicit focus on consumers as the co-creators of value. For him, people were the primary constituency. In his framework, people emerged as the essential generators of demand or creators of product, and with his strategy prescriptions linking both. For example, in strategic intent, Prahalad dwelt with an active management process that would include the following: focusing the organization's attention on the essence of winning, motivating people by communicating the value of the target, not just the target, the value of the target, leaving room for individual and team contributions. Not everything needs to be contributed by the leaders and managers. Individuals and teams must be allowed to contribute by providing spaces, sustaining enthusiasm by providing course corrections, and finally using the intent, that is the strategic intent, consistently to guide resource allocations. For Dr. Prahalad, strategy is a connecting bridge between the leader and the people as much as it is between the firm and the environment. In his construct, the latter is expressed through the former. This is a very interesting and important observation for you. Many times, leaders see strategy as a plan, as a construct, as something which guides the rest of the organization to work on. And strategy is also seen as the way in which the firm can adapt itself to the environment. However, he said strategy is a connecting bridge between the leader and the people as much as it is between the firm and the environment. In his construct, the latter is expressed through the former. He also had strong intellectual competencies being at the top of leadership agenda. His work on core competence itself is completely intellect based. It is people focused. However, here he focused on the intellectual competencies of people. According to Prahalad, core competencies are the collective learning in the organization. Core competencies were seen as signifying a unique ability to coordinate diverse skills and integrate multiple technologies. He argued correctly so that several individualized skills would not lead to the competitiveness of an organization. He said that core competency is a cluster of skills that exist in an organization so that others cannot replicate. There is no point in one individual of an organization having certain core competencies. The entire competency set of an organization must be the core competency of the organization, which cannot be replicated by others. The individual skills needed to be woven into a core competency that was distinctive to the organization. In his view, core competence would cover many levels of people and all functions, with top management looking at the company as an amalgam of skills and not as a collection of departments or products. We see the organization structure as well as a business or a company in terms of departments and products. His advocacy of looking at the organization as an amalgam of skills is definitely a pathbreaker. Another point, which is the bottom of the pyramid dimension. It is, however, in his book Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid that an entirely new human and socio-economic dimension of Dr. C.K. Prahalad emerged. By all accounts, no management guru or any corporate honcho until then considered the poverty-stricken sections of the society as one deserving of any mention in strategy formulation. Economics professors might have written about them, then theologists might have written about poverty-stricken people, philosophers must have written about them, but no strategy guru or no management guru has written about the poverty-stricken sections of the society as one deserving of any mention in their strategy formulation works, and the credit goes to Dr. C.K. Prahalad for that. In an era where consulting organizations and corporate strategists encouraged companies to focus on advanced markets to drive revenues, Prahalad in his landmark book advocated creation of fortune by focusing on poor people in emerging markets, and that too not in an exploitative sense at all. It is in a sense of making them partners in economic progress. In his work, Prahalad provides many examples of products and services that underline his hypothesis. The tagline, enabling dignity and choice through markets, is evocative. Post publication of this book, creation and delivery of low cost but high quality products, customized applications became a boardroom topic finally. The macro view of micro. Dr. Prahalad considered that bottom of the pyramid is not about market. It's about people who can be energized by providing attention on to them. Much before the poor economics theories of recent times, which won Nobel Prizes, Prahalad presented a nuanced understanding of income generation and consumption at the bottom of the pyramid. He envisaged 4 roles for the poor. Of course, everybody thinks of them as consumers, but he positioned them as micro consumers. But he said they are also micro producers and micro innovators and finally micro investors. With the 4 roles, BOP people can co-create value, Dr. Prahalad argued with examples. You look at the e-Chopal, you look at the Kirana stores in the rural landscape, you look at the way Amul grew based on the individual dairy farmers. The several examples that supported his hypothesis not merely consolidated a great thesis, but also demonstrated his own unique perspective and perspicacious faculties. That's his macro view of micro, which was very distinguished and differentiated for a strategy guru, lecturing and developing research in the Western world. He also created new zones of comfort. He typically never stayed in a particular zone of comfort. Diverse geographies, differentiated firms, complex demographies, emotive socio-economic segments, and several other zones less traveled by others became zones of contribution for him. In consulting, he consulted to top-ranking global firms as well as to smaller mid-sized firms. He consulted to great companies in the US and also to smaller mid-scale companies in India. Of course, the consultations to the top ranking global firms provided him early challenges as well as great opportunities to showcase his strategic talent. Coupled with his passion to evangelize his strategic philosophies globally with a special focus on India, Dr. Prahalad quickly became a management mainstream thinker and consultant in his own right. And that made Dr. Prahalad a truly jet set global management guru who was respected and listened to in any part of the world. And he also founded many entrepreneurial ventures. He personally ran entrepreneurial ventures such as Praja Inc., which sought to harness the power of technology and the internet. As with the philosophy he advocated for others, he set aspirations higher than resources and aimed to push the boundary farther ever often. He also advocated sustainability. From 2009 onwards, sustainability was a big theme in his works, and it obviously was long before it became a widely shared concept. He said that the following four factors demonstrate and dictate the need for sustainability: water shortages, commodity shortages, high commodity prices, and global warming. Dr. Prahalad considered sustainability to be the mother lode of innovations and inventions that would yield both bottom line and top line returns. He advocated with examples that sustainable development is good business because it conserves resources for both producers and consumers while being gentle on the environment. He also had a sustainability quality parallel for India Inc. as well as the global industrial world to take note of. In 2009, Dr. Prahalad argued that sustainability at that point of time was like quality movement 30 years ago. The similarity of arguments against and the outcomes that disproved the arguments are as below. In respect of quality movement, that is 30 years prior to 2009 when he propagated the sustainability movement, was thought to increase costs when launched. The quality movement people felt would increase the costs of production at the time of its launch. But with quality understood and processes in place, costs actually came down and businesses improved. That is true from Japan to US. As far as sustainability movement was concerned, people thought that it would require significant investments, and people also thought sustainability movement requires extension of product life cycles and not product changeovers. However, he proved that sustainability works with breakthrough innovation which will both conserve resources and reduce costs, and product will be appreciated for the contributions it makes on the cost as well as the value front. Dr. Prahalad advocated that companies which develop sustainable technologies, that is, technologies which lead to sustainability, will secure competitive advantage quite apart from reputational advantage. He had a lot of unfinished work though. Destiny took Dr. Prahalad early from us. He had lots of ideas and lots of concepts to work on, and he had outlined his own unfinished work as of that time. He decided to take forward the core concepts of his four books, connecting the concepts with appropriate linkages. He saw the intersection of the four as the biggest opportunity for management and humanity. As we have seen, globalization, connectivity, inclusive growth, and sustainability are his four broad themes. Globalization means connecting more people. Connectivity makes more people better informed. He makes better consumers, producers, innovators, and investors of people, irrespective of their financial situation. Inclusive growth needs focus on the base of pyramid people more than any other segments. And sustainability is a necessity because more people on this planet means pressures on sustainability. Dr. Prahlad's series of works can be described as one of the more holistic approaches to strategy and development, connecting countries and people through a few but powerful constructs. On innovation, he had a unique take. He held, if you are not profitable, you cannot afford the future, and if you are not innovative, you have no future. Very interesting statement. If you are not profitable, you cannot afford the future, and if you are not innovative, you have no future. In his book, The New Age of Innovation, co authored with Professor M.S. Krishnan, he makes many interesting propositions. He talks about confluence and convergence. The confluence of connectivity, digitization, and the convergence of industry and technology boundaries are creating a new dynamic between consumers and the firm he held. He also talked about co creation in a significant manner in that book. Dr. Prahlad hypothesized that the traditional firm and product centric view of the firm was being rapidly replaced by a personalized experience and a co creation view of value which can be generated along with the customer by the firm. And the locus of innovation, he said, has moved away from the firm. The very locus and the source of innovation change when instead of a small group of people working on innovation, you can have 3 billion people not only being micro producers and micro consumers but also micro innovators. He was talking about the bottom of the pyramid across the world. Through his works, Dr. Prahlad looked at the worlds of business and society segmentally but also simultaneously integrated them seamlessly and elegantly, which very few could even conceptualize and articulate from a strategy point of view. He was also an outstanding intellectual collaborator. Dr. C.K. Prahlad has been a great collaborator in developing his themes. He never tried to appropriate the thoughts and constructs to himself. Exemplifying what he fervently believed in, he co-created intellectual value with other great professors and researchers. His combination with Gary Hamel was legendary. He also did many good works with Venkat Ramaswamy and M.S. Krishnan, as we have seen here. And he collaborated with R.A. Mashelkar, the famed head of CSIR, India's topmost scientific research institutions conglomerate. And he authored Innovation's Holy Grail. Then, of course, The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid and The Multinational Mission, one of the earliest book of his. From The Multinational Mission, which started his major book writing journey, to The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid, which is a transformational conclusion, in a way of speaking, of his book journey, represented the kind of strategy continuum that he traveled over his illustrious career. He had a unique ability to expound his thoughts and constructs in multiple settings. He was equally insightful and articulate in relating to audiences in New York or New Delhi, or contextualizing to listeners from the CEOs to students. And that was his versatility, and also his ability to have universal concepts brought out and articulated in a manner that was logical and also conceptually elegant. From day one, he was a serial strategist, so to say. Dr. Prahlad admits that from day one, his work had been in the broad domain of strategy. However, he took one concept at a time and built a strategy construct around it. Each subsequent concept and construct was built on the previous one, thus building a continuously expanding paradigm of strategy. Started with globalization, the multinational mission, then went on to strategic intent, then came to core competence, then talked about competition, brought about the theme of innovation, and finally concluded with the concept of bottom of the pyramid. These core concepts and constructs of Dr. C.K. Prahlad talk about his capabilities a lot, intellectual as well as thoughtful capabilities. The distinctiveness of Dr. C.K. Prahlad's work is that they are great on a standalone basis and greater together. No other management guru has connected competence with competitiveness, poverty with affluence, emerging economies with developed economies, people with strategies, and firms with consumers, as he has done. Dr. C.K. Prahlad's life and works offer us several instructive leadership insights and leadership guidances. He was a great academic leader without any doubt. He was a knowledge authority. He was a strategy guru. He was a management exponent. His advice was accepted and welcomed by corporations in the US as well as in India. Whatever he said was universal in its approach, and he grew in an environment which was highly competitive and which had several other academic professors of high standing. Yet he came up with very distinguished and very differentiated constructs and paradigms that put him on a completely different pedestal. Secondly, he was the only strategy guru or management exponent who brought the poor people onto the center stage of strategy and management. His demonstration of the bottom of the pyramid concept as being capable of generating micro consumers, micro producers, micro innovators, and micro investors is not merely thought provoking, it is game changing. One would wish that many corporations would embrace this concept and develop products and services on the lines which he has propounded. Another thing was that he was always very futuristic. Whatever he thought about, whether it was globalization, the co-competence, or the bottom of the pyramid, or later on connectivity and sustainability concepts, were years ahead relative to where he was at the time of presenting them in the time frame. Also, he brought out concepts which were almost like the first time ever concepts. The concepts of co-competence, strategic intent, and the bottom of the pyramid certainly were foundational concepts. No other author brought out those concepts. And the humanistic approach in his works, trying to connect the developed world and the developing world, the rich and the poor, contextualizing to every country, trying to cater to the largest corporation as well as the smallest corporation, articulating and advocating his viewpoints not merely in the boardrooms but also in the industry associations and even in the family get-togethers. He comes across as someone who is passionate about what he has thought about, what he has been conceptualizing, and what he has been presenting as validated constructs. So that is the leadership personality that Dr. C.K. Prahalad had, and he was a luminary, an outstanding luminary at that in the world of strategy. And anyone who wants to work on an intellectual leadership model, for example, can take several lessons from him in terms of fresh thinking, differentiated thinking, and also developing a concept after concept kind of construct, so that he doesn't get bogged down with the legacy of the past. He always moved on, but that movement has been in a particularly logical fashion, in a particularly reinforcing fashion, and together all the concepts he made or he constructed were timeless in terms of their implementation capability, and that's his greatness. All the concepts he made were timeless in terms of their lasting value. With that, I would say that we have understood Dr. Prahalad's leadership in a manner that we can incorporate his capabilities and his learnings as well as his teachings into our own understanding of the leadership domain. Thank you. We'll meet in the next lecture.